Welcome back, everyone. We are joined today by Jermaine Collier. Jermaine, I am always so happy to see you, but I am particularly excited today because I feel like your experience, your success in the field, there's so much that you're going to be able to share valuable insights to with aspiring CPTs and those who are already certified alike that are trying to advance in their career. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Wow. It's been a while for us, actually.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. I'm happy to
It
reconnect with you. So, why
is.
don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your background?
Wow. So my background goes a while back. So I started running track at 8 years old, and back then I just wanted to be an architect. I'm like, I like drawing. That's what I
Interesting.
want to do. As I progressed in age, I continued with track, and I was very successful at it. Ended up getting a full scholarship to the University of South Carolina. Go Cox. All right.
Yeah.
After I graduated, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I know I wanted to be somewhere where I was in the mental health field and I could also be a part of athletics. So, of course, coaching was the first assumption that's like, okay, this is going to work for me. I did that and I made it up to the NCAA level and I realized, like, wow, this is amazing, but I'm only able to help a small cohort of
Mm.
individuals. And I felt like I should be doing so much more. So I ended up revamping, and I always enjoyed fitness. It was a big part of my life. And my wife used to get annoyed that I would go out and work out for 3 hours.
Yeah. Well,
But she's like, you know what? It started off as like, you should record your workouts. So she started assisting me with that, and then my social media started to grow. This was during COVID, and I enjoyed it so much that I spent more time focusing on just working out and fitness than I did coaching. So then the idea came. It's like, okay, why don't you do personal training? Now, then I didn't know the full specs of it. Like, you need to be certified. You need all this other stuff. So I'm like,
yeah.
I know as an athlete what it feels like to do the exercises, but there's a difference between being an athlete, being a coach, and being a personal trainer.
Yeah.
So I figured out that the direction or the trajectory that I wanted to go, I had to have the best out there, right? And that is NASM. And it was quite challenging. I actually took the exam once before I started meeting with you, and very frustrating. I thought I studied very well, and it just didn't turn out that way. I missed it by a couple of points. Devastated, went back to coaching, and it just wasn't the same. So I tried it again, and I knew this time it's like I didn't do extra things. So I would study, but I wasn't really retaining the information. I wasn't like actions speak louder, right? So I think what I did wrong was try it on my own. It's like, all right, I'm studying, I'm talking to my wife about it, but there's no action applied. Like, I'm not going through the motion. I'm not going through these
Yeah.
movements. I'm not really understanding the biomechanics of everything. It's like, this is a science subject and I need help. That's when I started reaching out for tutoring,
Yeah.
and
So
found
it's
you.
really interesting that you say that because even someone with your level of knowledge, the level of accomplishment that you had already reached professionally in a tangential field and how hard you were working, it's
Yeah,
sometimes just not enough. The same thing we hear again and again on this show is that there is that disconnect with the
yeah,
way the material is presented, that it's not taught to you. So you're having to try to teach yourself something that you
yes,
need to learn. And like that just doesn't work. That's kind of antithetical to what we do as trainers, right? Like we teach
yes.
people how to move, so we need to be taught how to do that. Yeah, really great
Exactly.
points. So I think what was very interesting about your path to me was that a lot of people enter our field relatively young, right? This is like
Yeah.
one path where it turns out to be their first real job, right? They're right out of school, then they come into this career. Then
Hmm.
we see, I think, a larger percentage of people that are doing a career pivot, like away from something that is less related, but still kind of like you said, I think we all have that desire to help people. And it's always about more than fitness, right? It's about mental health and
Agreed. Yeah.
everything, just the well being. So then there's that track. There are less people, I think, that did what you did, where you're already established and successful in the field. You can stay in that and just keep growing, but you
Yeah.
chose to do this to advance your career. So, what were your goals in obtaining your NASM cert?
My goals were to be able to help more people. I understood the biomechanics of track and field like the back of my hand. That was I've been running track since I was 8, so it sort of came naturally. I never really had to relearn. Like even when I got
Right.
certified as the USA track and field coach, I went into those courses very confident and established at that point already. So that was fine. But going into personal training, there were questions that I knew I couldn't answer because I had those same questions myself. I actually got hurt in college because of poor core engagement and just technique. And like you think that people would like understand, or coaches would talk about this stuff, but they don't. They just expected us to already know. So when I was in the position to like coach and like I was writing the program for the athletes, I wasn't certified at the time, but it was basically okay. I'm going to pull from what I did and during my athletic career, and I'm going to give them this programming. Then it's like you have athletes that are like, well, coach, I never did any type of strength training before. Like, can you help me with a squat?
Yeah.
And like for me, I'm like, yeah, sure. You just go like this, and their mind body connection is just not there. So you have to be able to break it down, and that's where I had the disconnect. Like I can tell you how something felt, but I want to be able to tell you how to do it so you can make that connection. And that's what NASM did for me. Now, as far as the career and my goals, I'm able to go back to coaching if I want to, and I have a deeper knowledge about what happens behind the scenes, not just the performance, but how do you prepare? How do you program throughout these seasons? How do you
Yeah.
how do you prioritize recovery? Keeping the athletes healthy for long term, not just like the beginning of the season. And like, so I feel more confident as a coach than the same as I do as a trainer. And it's so amazing because I felt really inadequate for a while. Like when I started to make this pivot, I'm like, is this the
Mm,
right thing to
yeah.
do? Like I'm already a head coach at a university. Like, is this the right thing to do?
Yeah.
But I really felt that if I wanted to achieve what I aspired to be as a coach, as a mentor, as a person, even for my family, I need to make sure I can answer those questions that froze me before.
Yeah, well, I'd say you achieved it in spades. So here, this is interesting. Coming back to what you were saying about the injury thing. So when
Yeah,
I was a younger athlete, I was hurt all the time. And then it was just kind of one of those things that you just accept, well, I'm injury prone. Since
yeah,
starting NASM, so this is like almost 20 years ago, I have never had a single injury. I have never had a client have an injury. And this is
yeah,
also including, I work a lot with pro sprinters too, MLB pitchers, like where we're doing things as fast as humanly possible with the maximal amount of power. And if you're doing it the right way, it's not that you can't get hurt, but the odds of getting hurt are like so reduced that it's a shame that more
yeah,
people aren't doing it. But I think what you're doing now is awesome because you have widened your net. So you're going to be able to expand out and help recruit a lot of people and reshape the track and field industry because you and I both know that it's like a lot of times these form things limit how much power there is. And it's like when you're a
absolutely.
younger athlete and people are just telling you, just try harder. Like that is, there's only so hard that you can try. Like there's only so much heart you can put into it. The rest of it can come from your body if you guide it the right way.
If you got it the right way. Now, I truly understand what working smarter, not harder,
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
now.
So here's another thing that I would like to talk about because I think a lot of people who come into our field have had successful, well, careers as athletes, right? They have a
Yeah,
successful background in some sports. They have that love of moving the body, of competing, and they figure, this seems like a natural carryover when you're thinking about what do I love? What can I do professionally? So
right.
I think there are a lot of ways that really serves us well. But as you mentioned in the beginning, being good at something is not the same thing as teaching it, even if we're talking about coaching on the skill side. And it's certainly
Right.
not the same thing as training, the strength and conditioning side of that. So what do you think are some of the strengths or attributes that you brought to the training field from your track background that we can think of? So think of our listeners that they might be on the fence, they're not sure how they can look at their own experience and kind of package in their mind how they're going to market the skills that they're already bringing into the field.
Yeah, something as simple as the glutes, right? In track and field, we rely on the glutes a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, and one of the issues that I remember specifically, and a lot of my former teammates or just peers in general, is stability. Like sprinting is, I like to call it a high intensity plyometric exercise because
Yeah.
that's what it is, and it's unilateral in a way, meaning
Yeah.
you're focusing on one side. So how do you train an athlete to become more stable, and also produce more force through the glutes? I had no idea. I'm like, squats. Everyone goes to squats, but even when you think about squats, most people like only care about their 1 rep max or how much weight they can throw around,
Yeah.
right? And that has nothing to do with stability at all. So what I learned is starting from the foundation, right? The stabilization phase, high end reps, isometrics, really activating those muscles. So understanding the foundation, I can take that over to coaching and I can build an athlete. And it's just like, to me, it's still surreal because I used to be on the other side, and
Yeah.
like I remember getting hurt and me being that person, the coach, the trainer now, it's like I could have fixed myself. And looking through that lens now, it's
Oh,
like, wow, this is such an amazing opportunity, and I'm grateful that I could help athletes with their success. It's really amazing.
yeah. And the big thing with the glutes that I have found too is that hardly anybody, it's like they can be squatting where the bar is bent. It has so much weight, right? That they can bear that much weight, but hardly anybody, maybe 1% of athletes are doing full hip extension when they come up.
They're
And
not
it's like if you
right.
leave that little bit behind and you're sprinting, right? Where it's like it's timed, it's literally timed. You leave
Yes,
behind 3, 4, 5% of your power because the hips are hanging back.
are hanging back.
It's
Yeah,
just like it's speed left on the table. Yeah.
very
Um,
true. That's
so how about some of the other things? Like mentally, I think people that have a background as athletes don't quite realize the mental skill set, some of these soft skills, the intangibles that they're going to bring to the field as well, because of what working towards a goal, working on a team,
yes.
all of that, the things that get cultivated in that atmosphere. So what are you thinking about that?
From a mental standpoint, just being an athlete, I understand what stress is. Like you can be at peak shape, but if you are mentally stressed, the easy stuff can become hard, right? Our cortisol levels spike, and then our bodies start regressing in a way. So, just having that knowledge gives me full transparency on like how to not just program, but like we might have everything set in stone on the program, but you have an athlete, they come in and it's like, hey coach, I'm just not feeling it today. Like this happened, that happened, and being able to understand that, it's like, okay, we are going to change the RPE today. All right, your
Yeah.
rate of perceived exertion, right? We're
Yeah.
going to change that, and we're going to meet each other where we're at, and that's a part of maintaining safe progressions. And I think what, at least what I dealt with, is I had coaches who, it's like, okay, this is the program, because there was that disconnect. Like you got track and field coaches, and then you had strength and conditioning coaches.
Yes. Yeah.
Those are two different worlds.
Yeah.
So, like, we have a coach on this side that they can understand what lactic acid feels like after you run a 400, but they don't understand what it feels like to be doing like short rests, high reps. They don't understand what
Yeah.
that feels like. And when you have that disconnect, athletes tend to get hurt. You double up on workouts, the recovery isn't there.
Yeah.
You don't deload at all.
I know. I
And
know.
eventually you get overuse, and then
Yeah.
you got people sitting out for a season or two.
Yeah. Yeah. And coming back to what you were saying about adapting, it's like there is the capacity in fitness and sports together to learn so many life skills, right? Like people are
Absolutely.
being taught how to adapt. And I think also it's like the predominant sentiment now culturally is to kind of avoid suffering. And while I'm not saying that we should be inviting suffering, I think like training, especially when you're training for an event and you have yourself focused on this goal that is
Yeah,
time oriented, keeps you on track, and it
it
builds
does.
that grit in you and that kind of resilience and things then that when life gets hard and you're like, how am I going to deal with this, you already did, right?
You're
Like you
already
learned
there.
how to, you were trained how to do those things.
That's correct. The threshold. I remember those practices. The threshold.
Yeah.
It takes every bit of resilience you have to offer,
Yeah.
and I think for a lot of athletes, especially post college, one thing that I was still able to rely on was my resilience. Like, yeah, I ran the 400 hurdles. I remember every time I lined up for that race, I just didn't want to do it because I knew once I get around over that seventh hurdle, it's going to feel like I'm trying to climb a mountain with
Yeah.
boulders on it, and it burns, right? So after that, then that's actually what allowed me to keep trying because at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I didn't pass this time, but I'm not in pain.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
means I still can go.
Yeah.
I still can try. The only thing is time. If you can sacrifice the time, you're good to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I often liken it to people. A lot of people come to me after they took the first test and didn't make it. Um,
Uh-huh.
it's like your driver's license. After you pass, nobody ever, it's like, do you have your license or not? Nobody's ever asking, did you pass the test the first time?
Yes.
So like
Yes.
sometimes it takes more than one try, and it's never reflective, I think, of how you're going to do in the field. It's more so
No.
reflective of the test being ready for that particular standardized test, right? And more of these structural things where it's the familiarity with the number of sections, the number of questions, how are the questions worded, right? That it's
Yeah.
like again, it's like just training like a machine so that you're going to be prepared for the format that you're presented with when you hit the real thing. So I think, yeah, that's a great point that it very rarely has anything to do with effort and certainly not intelligence.
Oh, definitely not. I've actually learned more from like just being in the field than going through the modules and everything. Real time, well, experience is always better. You learn a lot more. You retain the information. I became a better trainer after I got
Oh yeah.
certified.
Isn't it funny where you have those moments where you're like, oh, that's what that means?
Yeah,
Right?
and no
Something from
one
the book
ever
that you
asked
learned
about
enough, but then when you
it. Yeah,
see it, it somehow clicks differently.
yes, and you can apply it. That's another
Mm.
thing. A lot of athletes, like I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak to myself. For myself, I have a hard time sitting and studying. I have to connect it with some type of movement,
Yeah.
which is why, like, I can read the stuff, but if I'm not applying it in real time, I'm going to forget it in a week.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, one of the main things that I recommend is when you're going through, like we have our exercise library cheat sheet where everything
Yeah,
is going to be grouped, everything that you need. But the way to really learn it is by doing them. You watch
by
the
doing
video, you do it. You then you take away, okay, what are the questions that I'm probably going to see from this? But you're right, because if you're pulling something from the files in your brain that you have done is totally
it. Yeah,
different than this all of this info that you're trying to cram in just to memorize
yes,
for the short term. Yeah.
absolutely,
Great
absolutely. It's
point.
nice to
Great
be
point.
able to just take, we got a lot of big bag.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're going to be able to reach the things on the surface, but you got some things deep in there, you can't reach it. And
Yeah.
if you are applying it in real time, it's easier to get it out of there. And
Yeah.
I've experienced that a lot, especially after starting at Lifetime.
Okay, so that's the thing I want to come to next. So I think a lot of people in our field that are getting established the first time, one thing that makes me sad looking back is that I think that even though we have a field that is largely supportive of each other, like I don't think we have a very like competitive or cutthroat. That has never really been my experience, and I love that. But I also think that a lot of people are feeling very alone when they get into the field. They're not sure how to get started. They don't know who to talk to. They don't
Yeah.
know what is normal, what is common, how to kind of prevent these things, how to move forward. So there's a lot of that. So I think what is really special about your experience is that one, you got established as a successful track coach.
Yeah.
Then you added your NASM cert. So you were able to restart new career, but then you up and moved to a different state. So you went through that experience again. So I think
Again.
where a lot of people haven't done that, you can share with us what you learned to make it easier, better, more effective the second time, the third time.
My approach is everything happens for a reason, and I look for a lesson out of all of it. Um, each time, like even speaking of track and field, my first race ever, I won. It's like, okay, so this feels phenomenal. But then I raced again and I lost.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that sucks. But I remember what it felt like to win and to lose. You learn from both, right? It's harder for people to take those losses or those failures and learn from them. And also just peel back and realize, like, you've gotten here through trials and tribulations. Like your journey is not just a day. Like you've had some failures, you have some successes, but you're still here, and that's what wisdom is. So each opportunity that I had, I call them opportunities. Like every time I had to restart, I know my starting point was further ahead than it
Mm,
was last time. And that's just my outlook on it. Okay, like I failed this test. Why? Like that doesn't mean I'm inadequate, I'm incapable. I
no.
just made a few mistakes. So let's figure out what those mistakes are, apply them, and see how it works next time. If it doesn't work, hey, let's try it another way.
Yeah.
You have to persevere. You have to have that resilience.
Yeah. And not put that pressure on ourselves that there's the
Yeah,
expectation to get it right the first time. It's like you if your goal is to get it right, it might just take a couple tries. And there is that beauty in it having taken the test because now you're
yeah,
familiar with it. So
absolutely.
it works both ways. A lot we have a 95% pass rate, but for the people that haven't taken the test yet, a lot of that is just trusting me, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
have that experience. So if you have taken it once and haven't passed, there is a lot of benefit to that
Yeah.
too. So tell us how you ended up at Lifetime. So how did you decide where to get rooted once you moved?
Ooh, when I moved, now this is an amazing story. My wife and I actually moved in 2 weeks after deciding that we wanted to move. We're just like, I don't, I still don't know how it was possible, but when I moved, I already knew what I wanted to do. So it's like, you know what? I passed this NASM exam. I have my certification. I'm nervous about, going into that field, that community. But like you said, everyone is always welcoming. I was able to learn from a lot of the individuals I met in Massachusetts. So I had the confidence because I had the resources, and resources meaning you, my wife, just myself, and just being able to persevere. Right? I know it's inevitable. You're not going to win at everything, but you can learn from everything. So I went into it with that mentality, like, and I applied to every gym
Okay.
that I could, and I also, I started my own business online, and just this is the foundation. I'm going to put it together brick by brick. I'm going to stay consistent and look for opportunities. So when I moved, like we didn't even like, it was amazing. So we found an apartment. We got denied, but we applied to many. The day we got accepted for one of them, we actually drove to see, sign the paperwork, and then had to come drive back to Massachusetts and then drive back again the next day.
Oh, and this is
And
all within weeks of the decision.
all within,
Okay.
yeah, all within weeks. But the whole time I'm just excited because, like you said, the pressure, we have the pressure to meet a standard, but what is that standard?
Yeah.
I started thinking about what's the standard, like everyone wants to succeed, right? Everyone is not everyone, but like when you think about success, you have an idea of what it looks like because you see someone who's successful, but you don't know how they got there. That's
Right.
just your vision of real time. But success is having that patience, having that resilience, trusting yourself, trusting the process, and going through the journey. So that's what I did. I applied everywhere, and I started at Fusion Gyms. I'm not sure if you know what Fusion Gyms is, but it's an influencer type of
Okay.
gym. I started there. Um, and I learned from everyone, trainers, management, members. I learned from everyone, and I applied for lifetime at the same time, and I didn't hear from them. So I was at Fusion, then I started at D1 training,
Mm,
where I can do both personal training and
right.
performance coaching. All right, because I still
Yeah.
wanted to stay in that athletic community. And months later, Lifetime called me and they were like, your resume is amazing. I don't know how it was like blacklisted.
Yeah.
So my resume was pushed to the side
Yeah.
first, and then I guess they went through them, read
Oh,
through it, and was like, yeah, we got to
yeah.
call this guy.
And their gain. They're certainly their gain for that. So I think that this is important because a lot of people, I think in the beginning, and you're so vulnerable, right? It's like, imagine,
Yes,
remember, go back to the first time where it feels so significant. Everywhere that you put an application in, it feels personal, it feels significant.
yes,
Once you're in the field for a little while, you're going to learn some places are managed well, some places are not. It's very
yes,
easy for applications to get lost or for it to just not be the right time. So I think for all
right,
of our listeners, when you're applying for the first job, one of the things I recommend is just apply, like you said, Jermaine, a ton of places, cast a
yeah,
wide net, and then hopefully you're going to have some options. But also follow up, send an email,
yes,
go in, make that personal connection, and create like a rapport there where it's going to be okay. Even if you're not hiring right now, please feel free to keep my resume on file. You're
yeah.
welcome to get in touch with me anytime in the future, right? Like those kinds of things. Okay, so tell us now about your business online because I know that you're really successful there. How did you build that and what are you doing?
Oh man, just word of mouth, really. And my wife, again, sometimes she used to get annoyed because I'd be having practice sessions with athletes, and I'd be out there for hours because you lose track of time when you're passionate about
Yeah.
something. And one thing I always appreciated from my coach was that he was truly a mentor, a second father, and you could tell that he really cared about each individual, and
Yeah.
he gave you 110%. So that's how I run my business. I don't look at people as numbers. Like, okay, this is an individual, and my goal and my job is to help them be the person that they aspire to be within within the boundaries of like realism, right? So just providing adequate service, word of mouth. Working at different gyms, and people are telling their cousins or their family friends like, oh yes, this guy he ran track, he's this that, and I just started people started flooding in. Also through social media, just telling my journey, my story, trying to stay as consistent as possible with that. Just talking to people, sort of expanding out of my shell. I used to own the title introvert when
Oh,
that's
that was
not
before we
really,
crossed paths.
yeah, exactly. That's not really a thing, right? That's
Yeah.
just a word people toss around when they're uncomfortable,
Yeah.
being themselves. And for me, it's like, I have a lot to tell, and I want to help people. So I'm going to present who I am, and it just it just works out, and I love it.
It's great. It's great.
I'm
And
having
I
a good
think
time.
that that's encouraging for our listeners too, right? Like be your authentic self,
Yeah,
and you're gonna
authentic.
shine as long as you're willing to put the work in. It's gonna come together. So if anybody is interested in working with you, what kind of services would you be offering? Are we more towards athletes, general population, if they want to work with you remotely?
Well, thankfully, I can say all of those now. Athletes, my business, I am leaning more towards remote training
Yeah.
now. That's a good problem to have. I definitely want to be in person more, but there's only one of me. So I expanded online and social media. I'm on social media, Instagram, coachjayizfit. And yeah, you can Google me, reach out, Jermaine Collier Jr. I think I'm still on Google somewhere.
Okay.
I'm not that old yet.
Yeah, great. And coming back to something you were saying about the hard work, I think,
Yes.
especially for our Gen Z audience, what
Hmm.
they are presented with are these influencers that are making millions of dollars for every post. It's
Yes.
not realistic for a lot of people. And hopefully, ultimately, you can get there. But like you said, it's knowing every step of the way what is realistic. So in the beginning, when you get certified, you just need to pay your bills, and it's not going to
Yeah.
be fun in the sense of it's usually bad hours. You're going to have a lot of people who are canceling. It's all of these unavoidable things that come with working on the gym floor. Um,
Yeah.
but you're also getting the experience that is going to shape you. You're learning how to sell. There are things that come out of that. And I think a lot of people leave our field because they think that that's not sustainable. And that is not sustainable, especially for the rate that you're working at then. But it is using that as your springboard so that you can start to do things where your rate is going to go up, your hours are going to become more streamlined, and working for yourself. Like it's always going to be a lot of work, but I think a lot of us
Yeah.
want that. And in a way where it's really nice to have that flexibility with your personal life. That it's funny because I feel like corporate America is starting to get more like this now, where
Yeah.
you can do what you need to do during the day as long as you get your work done and you do your hours. It doesn't have to be this like set number of hours. So there are pros and cons to that, but I think like along the way you find yourself in the work, and it's a super cool thing where for me it became like a lot about operations, scaling businesses, things that I never intended to be involved in the beginning. And that's why I really like to do the consulting now and helping people with the business advancement, writing resumes,
Nice.
applying for the jobs, practicing interviews, and then when they own a business, analyzing it, figuring where are the issues coming, how to kind of revamp, restructure, streamline. All of these things are so much fun for me. I don't think a lot of people enjoy that, but I love it. It turns out that there is like this intersection between these passions of fitness, education, and business operations, where it
Yeah.
really gives you kind of a competitive edge because there's not many people in that niche. So it's like when you find your own little spot, then you can really shine. So I think like you said, in the beginning, just just do what you got to do and then
That's it.
keep working smarter and smarter. But if you expect to be making a ton of money first off, or getting into a job that is going to have health benefits and set hours and be like really comfy and cushy, then this is probably not the field for you.
Not,
There aren't a lot of those. And
not,
even the ones that are part-time there, they're good. Like I've done that too for facility management experience, and I really loved it, but they don't pay well. So like it's not
right.
a viable option long term if you need to support yourself financially.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I believe it's the it's the intangibles that you have to focus on. And you said, just getting the experience, understanding the ins and outs of the business. And after a while, you start to get some tread under your feet. You
Hmm.
really do. But you have to have that resilience because the nature of this business is unfortunately not to be at one place. Most trainers are like, okay, I'm at this gym, and then I'm going to this gym, then I'm going doing my own thing. That's the nature of the business. But what it does is just gives you more outreach, You have more opportunities to meet new people, and it gives you an opportunity to learn more about yourself, right? I've learned so much about myself in the past few months that oh my gosh, the person I aspire to be doesn't seem too far away now. But
Oh,
it's
that's
it's
cool.
it's continuing that journey and trusting yourself, trusting the process, and following your passion. It's really hard for a lot of athletes, I know for sure, because they don't really know who they are outside of the sport that they were tied to. But
Yeah.
everyone has a gift. Everyone does. Everyone's a genius at something. There are different types of genius. You just have to find your lane.
Yeah. And like look at you with the move. You have kind of the best case scenario, right? You have a great wife, you have great kids, but it still was a whole family moving,
Yes,
every single member of the family adjusting to a move at one time, right? So a major upheaval all around, and then you establishing yourself all over professionally. So I think, there's a lot to that the struggles can really build our strengths and our character.
absolutely. They definitely can. My wife is phenomenal. We've been through a lot of things together, and the way we look at it, when we found out we were pregnant, we moved immediately to Massachusetts, and then on her birthday, we went to her doctor's appointment, and then we were admitted into the hospital on her birthday, and ended up being there for 2 months. Right, so
Oh,
going through things like that, and we made it out. It's like, you know what? This isn't that bad. After going through certain things, okay, well, I did this. This isn't that bad. You have to approach things with an open mind, full transparency. That's the only way to think clearly. I'm not as emotional as I used to be because I understand everything happens for a reason and there's a purpose behind every opportunity. And you just have to appreciate it.
yeah, I agree completely. And I think a lot of the training helps build your tolerance for discomfort so that when
Yeah.
things are happening in your life there is like that emotional distance where it's like, okay, I can do this. I don't want to do this isn't going to be enjoyable, but this is what's happening nonetheless, and I have the skills to do it. Yeah, really cool. Okay, so what would you like to share with our listeners about your experience with the CPT Academy? So let's say that they're thinking about
Yes.
becoming NASM certified, and they are maybe going to do our CPT prep program.
One thing I can say is do it. I I tell everyone to this day, like, Ashley, you helped me so much. Like you were able to unlock that door that I was blocking myself. And I understood the material so much clearer when I went in for that exam the second time. I was nervous because I couldn't find my laptop or something like
Mm,
that. I
yeah,
wasn't nervous about taking the test. I was
yeah.
nervous about materials. And I reflected on that after I passed. It's like, oh wow, when I was taking the test, I was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you
So
want to be
can we
confident,
can we
do
talk
it.
about that trust element? Because in the beginning,
Yes.
there's not one person that I have ever spoken to where I say you're going to be fine. We have a 95% pass rate, right? Like you can trust this, you can trust this program, and you're going to be a good test taker, and you're going to feel confident by the time you take the test. I don't think anyone has ever believed in the beginning
No.
because it seems so far away, and a lot of people, they
Yeah.
think it's impossible. They just haven't received the training for those tools. So did you, in the beginning when we first started working together, like how did it over time get easier to build your confidence?
Oh, it got easier because I was more motivated to learn, and I was retaining the information. I understood how to study the material. Before it was just sporadic, like, oh man, like I'm gonna check this chapter because I forgot this definition, and I'm gonna go back to the. It was just, you go into a panic because you just want
Yeah.
as much information as possible so that you can pass this exam. When, just like everything else, there's a structure to it, and you just have to be patient. I think the trust factor for me was almost immediate because, I mean, I've tried it already and my way didn't work. So clearly you knew what you were talking about from the first day. I'm like, okay, well, she clearly knows way more than I do. So I'm going to listen. And it was easier for me to trust you and trust myself during that time.
So by the time you got to the test, you trusted yourself, right?
Yes, that transition, once I started to retain the information and I started applying it, because I was doing all body weight exercises
Oh,
when we
interesting.
were, yeah, I was doing all body weight. So I would start to apply certain things that we talked about. It's like, oh wow, now I can feel it. And that mind body connection, that's a confidence booster too. Because if you don't have any mind body connection and you're going into a gym, you're already intimidated because you don't understand anything that's happening.
Okay, so let's talk about our practice test in particular.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
how did you feel like our 120 question practice test compared to the real thing? And was that a helpful experience? Was having that 3 hour lecture video accompanying it, was that useful? How did those things apply for the actual test?
Oh, it definitely applied. It was, I mean, it's almost like you wrote the test
Oh,
too.
I'll take that.
Like it's like, okay, wow. It's for me, it just I'm able to compare things. So like it's almost like pre-meet, like a pre-meet warm up or something like that, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna practice how I set my blocks. I'm gonna imagine I'm gonna do race prep, gun goes off, all that other stuff, get my nerves nice and easy rather than like just going in to the competition without any prep at all. If you
Yeah.
prepare, you go confident, and that's how I felt after the practice test. It's like, oh wow, if I can do this, then I know I can do the real thing.
Great. So this kind of brings us full circle because it is this like the same approach to athletic training where you and I are we're cut from the same cloth. And I feel like this is why we hit it off from the beginning, where everything is down to the smallest detail. And it's going to
Yes,
be to try to simulate the conditions of competition as closely as possible in your
yes.
training so that when you get out there, there's not anything that's going to be unknown. But we bring that mentality to everything we do. So I have been trained in designing standardized tests for personal training certifications. But in addition to that,
Mm.
it is like there's no detail that is too small when we're studying how is
Yes.
it structured, right? And the nice thing is, and we talk about this a lot, and people aren't familiar with this, the practice tests that you get on your NASM account online are not like the real thing.
It's not like the real thing.
And everybody who had
Yes.
that experience going from that to the real test gets in the real test, and there is that moment of terror of like,
Oh
what is this? This is
man.
not what I prepared for. And I think most people don't know the regulation side of this, the accreditation side of this. And because I work in that too, I do. And again, nobody, like, there's a very small percentage of people that even find this interesting, but it is relevant because NCCA restricts how much information can be released prior to the
Uh-huh.
test that's going to be on the actual test. So they have to generate 120 question practice tests, but it can't include any of the things you're going to see. So it's going to make it so different than that. But not being affiliated with NASM directly is nice because then we have the flexibility to design the test as close as we think it's going to be to the real thing. So it's always nice to hear that you feel like there was a lot of crossover.
Oh yeah. Even if the questions were just formatted differently or they asked the questions differently, I was able to link everything together, and it just made it such an easier experience. It
Yeah.
was actually, I wouldn't say it was enjoyable, but I was a lot more relaxed than I
Yeah.
was the first time.
Good. Very good. Okay. So to wrap things up here, why don't you again just share everything that you want to with your business, where people can reach you, etc.
Yes, absolutely. So, my business is JMC Fitness. It's ran by myself and my wonderful wife. The kids soon.
Great.
They're still young. Um, on social media, I am Coach Jayizfit on Instagram. Is spelled with a Z, so IZ, not IS. You can find me. You can Google me. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. Same user at Coach Jayizfit. We're working on that TikTok, but email me. My email is coachjayisfit@gmail.com. I do have a phone connected to the business, and that number is 857-777-9963. And yeah, I'm open to help anyone who I can. So feel free. I'd be happy to have you.
Great, wonderful. Well, you shared so many helpful tips today. I think, and this is what we want to do in our community, is help each other to be successful and kind of like prevent these situations where we have to reinvent the wheel. There's just no reason. There's no reason for it, right? Like we
There's no
are all
reason. Yeah.
supportive of each other. So it makes sense for us to be able to advance quicker, right? And take out some of those stumbling blocks. So thank you so much for all of that. I will link below to everything, to all of your accounts. So any way that our viewers want to get in touch with you, they can just find your info down there. And for the CPT Academy, so we've talked a lot today about our CPT prep program. So that is going to be for anyone that is taking the NASM CPT test. We have 37 hours of video instruction. So it runs like a college course where all of the NASM content, the whole book, is presented lecture style, but you kind of get a feel for what it's going to be just the way we're talking today, right? This is a lot like
Yes.
what it is, where it's not typical science-based caller lecturing where you're like, trying to hold your eyes open so that you don't fall asleep. Hopefully it's a little bit more engaging, and also
Yeah.
stories from the field, and like kind of thinking about applying as well. And then we have, like we talked about, the 120 question practice test, but that's in addition to, we have 750 practice questions total. So you are training like a machine the whole time, learning the content and learning how to apply it in the questions, getting ready for the way the questions are actually going to be worded. So we have that online. And then we also offer our CEU course in science-based program design. So if you are NASM or any of the other big certs, check on our website to see if yours is covered, that when you're recertifying, you can do that course with us. And we can also connect about consulting. So if there are any business matters that you want help with, then feel free to reach out to me too. So again, Jermaine, thank you. It
Excellent.
was such a pleasure to have you with us today, and I hope that you'll be back again soon.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm a resource. You helped me out a lot, and I wouldn't be here without your help, seriously. So I definitely appreciate everything you're
Oh,
doing
thank
and
you.
everything you've done.
Thank you. And I think so highly of you too. And you know that it is at the core of my being that sports are going to become more integrated with the strength and conditioning, and that it's going to be science based. So everything that you're doing is, I think the value of it, it reaches so far. The impact of it reaches even beyond what you're doing with each person. So thank you for all of your work too.
All right. Thank you so much.